Alrighty, my sexy aliens, welcome back and welcome to the weekly. This is where I go over the cosmos, the astrology for the week ahead, and bring it down to earth for you so we can all understand it. Okay, so basically, we have kind of an introduction into eclipse season starting by the end of this week. Okay, we have Virgo season beginning. We are going into the next season, the next time of year, and then we are also going to be having the Virgo new moon right around the same time. And this new moon is going to be a very interesting one, and it's going to cause us to need to innovate and need to change some things around pretty much, even if it's disruptive, even if it doesn't all quite make sense in the moment. Also, by the beginning of next week, like literally Sunday into Monday, we are going to be having Venus moving into Leo and opposing Pluto. So we have quite some shifts happening this week that we're going to be talking about in this video. So sit back, relax, as always, grab yourself whatever you need, and let's get started on what is happening in the cosmos this week. Alrighty, my chart should be up on the screen so you can see it. And yeah, basically this week Virgo season begins. As you can see, the sun moves into Virgo and we enter into Virgo season. Now, this is important because this is not just any plain old, plain Jane Virgo season here that we are entering into. Alrighty, first off, we need to flash back, okay? We need to go back in time to about 6 months ago, around the end of February and into March timeframe, which was our last eclipse season, okay? And around this time frame, we had, some Virgo, we had a Virgo lunar eclipse, we had an Aries solar eclipse, and we were really dealing with like the Pisces, Virgo plus Aries axis a little bit because the nodes had just moved into Pisces and Virgo. And so there's been a lot over the last 6 months that you've likely noticed in your life that has been really surrounding this sense of like, maybe being in limbo a little bit, like going within this purification process. Like I kept saying right around that time that this was like a purifying eclipse season. So there's been this like purification process that's been happening. So you've likely noticed there's been a lot of things that have been leaving your life since then in so many different ways. You've likely had to let go of a lot. There's been a lot of space created in your life because that was kind of the name of the game around that time. There's been this kind of like, okay, like, what do I need to let go of? What habits are no longer serving me? What's going on that needs to be, that's no longer in alignment with my life? What am I doing that's no longer in alignment with where I want to be or who I want to be, etc.? So there's been a lot of letting go. And since then, now that we're kind of entering into the next eclipse season of 2025, we're going to find that this eclipse season is a lot about planting new seeds and kind of releasing karmic patterns for good. There's still a lot of emphasis on the Virgo energy. And so this eclipse season is going to be a lot more earthy. It's going to be a lot more about planting new seeds because this new moon that we have coming isn't quite an eclipse because it's a little bit too far from the node. As you can see here, the node's at 19. The new moon's going to be like literally right at 0 degrees Virgo. So they're a little bit too far apart for this new moon to be considered an eclipse. But we're then going to have a Pisces lunar eclipse in September. And, we'll talk about that. And then we're going to have another new moon in Virgo that is close to the node at the very, very end of Virgo season. So we're going to have a solar eclipse in Virgo. So we are going to have a new moon eclipse in Virgo, but it's not this one that's upcoming this week. It's just a new moon, not an eclipse. So this is really interesting. This tells me that right at the very beginning of Virgo, the early degrees of Virgo, we are starting something, we are planting seeds. And those seeds are really interesting because this new moon is going to be squaring Uranus that is now in Gemini. Okay, so this plan is kind of maybe a little bit risky. maybe a little bit like this new beginning, this new plan, these new seeds that we're planting, they're a little bit risky, or they may be disruptive, or they may be centered around really changing something in our lives. And another way that I kind of view this is that we may not have all the answers when we're making this plan, because over like the last several months, like I said earlier, like we've been kind of in this like limbo. We've been kind of in this like spiritual limbo of like letting things go, grieving the old, letting go of the old, changing some things around in our lives. But we haven't quite been to the point of really enacting really big change. We haven't really been to the point of like, okay, I'm done with all these distractions and I'm really focused and ready to implement these things that I've learned in the 3D world. There's been a lot of, well, I mean, mainly because we haven't had a lot of earth energy in the last few months. So it's the first earth energy that we're really coming into since Taurus season. So this is going to be the time, because Virgo season is a mutable earth sign ruled by Mercury, and it is so much about what are the earthly things in our lives that need to be rearranged, because it's a mutable sign. So it's about changing things. It's about change. Okay. So what are the things in our lives that we need to change so that they can run more efficiently? How do we take the internal shifts that we've been through from Gemini season, Cancer season, Leo season, and actually enact physical change in our lives? That's what the time that we're leading into by the end of this week is going to be about. Okay, what is going on with the physical things in our lives, whether it be our bodies, whether it be our habits, whether it be our schedules, whether it be our routines, whether it be our work, whether it be like our homes, whether it be our some physical material possession, whatever the case may be. It's like this is the time to start planting seeds that may not make sense. Like you may not have a whole thing figured out right now. You may not, like it may not even make sense to you why you feel these new things happening, or why you feel like you've got to make these small tweaks or make these changes, but you are kind of doing it anyway because you're feeling called to do it. And that's kind of how I see this new moon. It's like, okay, like the plan is going to disrupt some things, and it needs to. The plan is not going to make logical sense, Uranus and Gemini, but it doesn't need to, okay? It just needs to make enough change for us to move forward. And so much of this, because we were in Pisces season, last eclipse season, so much of this has been about letting go of physical things in our lives that are no longer in alignment, and has been about cleansing and purification from the inside out. This time, as we go into eclipse season, it's going to be more so about taking those things that we've changed internally and creating something with them. Where are we now going? What are we creating? What physical things in our lives are we creating? What things need to be moved around? Mars went through Virgo, for most of this summer, and conjunct the South Node. And so we've had to release a lot in terms of, conflicts involving perfectionism and, doing things the right way and micromanaging. And so some of that may also come back up during this Virgo season, especially with the sun in Virgo. Then it's going to be about how these ideals around perfectionism and micromanaging and shame and failure and things not being exactly the way that we feel like we need them to be, attaching to certain outcomes or specific details that kind of ruin the whole experience, how those things affect our own sense of vitality and self-worth, and where we need to change the way that we are doing these things because of how they affect our vitality, because of how they affect our sense of worthiness, our sense of shining and self-esteem within the world. So that's what we're really coming into right around this week. By the end of this week, as we go into this Virgo new moon, which a new moon is dark, okay, so it is more subtle. It is a bit less, you don't feel it as intensely as a full moon, okay? So new moons are not always going to be like, super in your face. But there is remnants of it when you can start looking at the themes that start coming up in your life this week. Especially with Virgo, there's this sense of like, what are we taking on that isn't ours? Where are we making other people's stuff, decisions, etc., our responsibility because we desire things to be a certain way or specific way and it's not, etc.? Where are we being too perfectionistic about things? Where do we need to let go? But also, I think more than anything with this new moon, it's like, where do we need to cut off distractions that are no longer serving us? And where do we need to plant new seeds in terms of what we want to create in the world? In terms of getting very streamlined and focused on where are we going and what is the first step. And sometimes the first step can feel very vague, or it can feel like not enough, and so we seek for more information. And this new moon squaring Uranus is, I think, tell the universe telling us you have enough information. You don't need a ton of evidence for you to take the first step. Okay, because we're coming out of Leo season, right? And this Leo season is always about, look, you're it. You don't need anything outside of you for you to shine. You don't need validation. You don't need this. You don't need that. You don't need everybody to like you or agree with you. You don't need, you're it. Be, do, have. Okay? And so Leo season is the being. Like, a lot of people are like, well, until I make this much money, then I can't do this, right? I can't be who I want to be. Or until I have this job, I can't be who I want to be. Or until I have a partner and my partner, or until my partner changes, I can't be who I want to be. Nope. Wrong. It's backwards, right? It's be, do, have. You got to be it, and then it happens, okay? You've got to be the person that is aligned within you. And it's not like about becoming something that you're not necessarily. It's about becoming more you and accessing that alignment within yourself, that you within yourself, that maybe you have fear and insecurity, etc., like kind of clouding or whatever, right? And sometimes it's even about embracing that insecurity, embracing those human parts about yourself and no longer making them into a problem. You know, I think that's what this past Leo season has really brought back up for me, especially with that Aquarius full moon. You know, it's like, maybe these parts of yourself that are less than perfect or that you're judging aren't even a problem. It's just how you're seeing it. It's just how you're judging it. It's just how you're perceiving it. Maybe they're a part of you and that's okay. Maybe you need to accept them into wholeness with the rest of yourself and love those parts of you equally as you do other parts of you. Okay, so, but either way, Leo season is like, once you're it, once you realize you're it, you know, it's all about you. Like, you are the one, like, you are the one. No one's coming to save you. You don't need permission. You don't need anything outside of yourself. You just need you to be on board. And then once you're on board, once you get back in the driver's seat, you take off. And the destination or the things that you desire are more of a match and come to you way more easy and effortlessly. So we just, you know, kind of had these lessons in Leo season. Now we're moving into Virgo season, which is about implementing these things, creating a strategy, creating a plan that doesn't need to be perfect and it doesn't need to all make sense. It just needs to be a first step. Instead of doing this thing, I'm going to do that thing. Okay, after, you know, it's like experimentation, you know, innovation. It's like, instead of, you know, this thing that I thought I wanted, I realized after whatever that I don't want it, or that these things need to be tweaked or changed. That is like the name of the game as we move into Virgo season. What needs to change? What needs to shift? What physical, earthly things do we need to implement within our lives? And I kind of already feel it coming, even though it's not even Virgo season yet. Like, I already feel the energy, I'll give you a great example of this, what I mean. Because I just realized it relates, and I didn't even realize it related till just now. But so over like the last, like I've went through my own kind of journey over like the last couple of months. You know, Cancer season was very mushy and emotional, and like this, like, you know, kind of process of like, you know, purging a bunch of old emotional things and allowing myself to feel things that had been kind of, you know, lurking within me, and healing by feeling them. And it was just this really emotional healing process that ended up being really beautiful. Then we came into Leo season, and it's been like, all right, embrace all of you, embrace all these different parts of you, and you're it, you're the one, like, time to go, you know, like, time to just be you. It's been a lot about just being, you know, just being and not having a problem with me being. Okay, so anyway, and then now I feel this shift starting to happen this week. And as a Leo sun, I'm very geared to the synodic cycle, so I'm very like kind of in alignment with what the sun's doing most of the time, since it's my chart ruler. So I can already feel, I usually start feeling those shifts, and I usually start embodying whatever that next season is about. So I can already feel this shift starting to happen intuitively within me that's like, okay, I've been feeling for a couple of weeks now that I need to get into some kind of spiritual routine because I've been a bit distracted. I've been a bit all over the place, like I've been allowing myself to be, but I've had no structure to that. Okay. Like it's not, and there's certain goals that are starting to become clear to me, but not all the way clear. They're still a bit vague, they're still a little bit blurry, but it's like, I'm starting to feel like there needs to be a structure to this flow that I've been in. And this is where Virgo season comes in. And the only idea that I've really had for this, the only inkling, the only small little intuitive hit that I've had for this is the first step. And that's usually how it is. It's like, that's how it always has been for me, where, I can create quantum leaps in my life, but I never have like the full plan. It's never like you're going to do step A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then that's going to get you to Z and you're good. Like, it's never been that. It's like, this is like step A, kind of. And that's it. It's like I have just a small little inkling, of like what to do, and it doesn't even make sense, and I don't even know if it's gonna work, and I don't even know if I'm doing it right, and I don't even know like anything, and so anyways, I've had this small little inkling of a step that's like, you need to go into your filming room, the room that I'm in right now, and like right on the other side of my camera, I have this whole, I created this whole space because I made my desk area like right up against the wall so I could have a ton of space in the rest of the room, lay out a rug, put some pillows down so that I could have this like spiritual space where I can get into my body, where I can do energy work. I like doing it on the floor for whatever reason. It's the most comfortable for me, and where I can just like meditate, do trance work, like whatever I wanted. I have had this room set up like this for months, but I have not done that. I have not done that. And so I've been having this inkling, and it's not coming from pressure. It's not coming from this place of like, you should be doing X or Y. It's just like this inkling that's like, okay, it's time. Like, and I'm like, and I feel like something's next. I feel like, okay, there's something next, but I don't know exactly like what it is or how to tap into it yet. But I've just had this small little inkling, like, go inside your filming room in the mornings and just get into your body. And the first time that I have had this inkling before, years ago in 2022, in the beginning of 2022, I had been kind of tapped out of my spirituality for a while. Like I was doing astrology, but I was doing it from like a more logical lens for most of 2021. And then in the beginning of 2022, I was like really missing just my intuitive spiritual side. Like I just felt like I wasn't as tapped into it. And so I really wanted to get really back into my spiritual journey. And so I had this weird inkling, like I didn't really know where to start. I just knew I needed to stop with the distractions. I needed to cut out distractions of like, scrolling or listening to videos all day, or basically listening and watching other people like live their lives and not live my own. I needed to cut that out, and I needed to focus on my body. And that's all I really knew. I knew it had something to do with like getting into my body and dance, but I didn't really know what that looked like. Like I had no idea. And that's what I did. Like back then, I literally made the decision one day, turned off my phone and was like, I'm doing this, and sat on my living room floor and like played some music and just started experimenting. Like I didn't know what I was doing, and I probably looked crazy, and I knew I looked crazy, but I had to let go of that so I could actually do it. And I just started experimenting with like my body and energy work, and it just started opening this like incredible shift in my life. Like I just started going through this whole new awakening that I had never been through. Like I thought I hit like a glass ceiling in like my spiritual journey up until that point. And then I realized that that there was a ton more that I didn't know. And it involved me letting go of some of my old ideas and some of my old expectations and some of my old because at the end of the day, and I keep finding this, it's like, we make so many fucking excuses for like why we can't do something, or why we don't want to take that first step, or why we aren't, structuring our lives the way that we want to, or why we don't go for what we want, or why we don't, whatever, right? Like, and I'm guilty of this too, like I've been putting off getting into my body, even though I feel this like nudge that I need to start doing that again, because I was like, well, I've done it before, and yes, it worked before, but I don't want to expect it to work this time, and I don't want to try to get back to something I was, and like just all of this random shit. And even when I first started doing it in 2022, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to do. I don't know what to do though. I don't know what to do. Like, and I knew what to do. I knew to get into my body, but I didn't know what to do after that. And that's why we hold ourselves up so much, because we only have an inkling of the idea of the first step. We only have a like small little intuitive nudge, but we don't really have much other information. And we're like, well, I don't know the other information, so I can't take the first step. No, by taking the first step, then you get the rest of the information. And so, and anyway, so I had all these different excuses. Well, what am I going to look like? And it's probably going to look weird, because the only thing I can think of is to like sit there in my body and like just move around in weird ways, to like feel different parts of my body and feel where I'm tense. And that's what I started doing. And I just followed my intuition. Anything that felt really tense, I would kind of hold it and breathe into. I probably looked like the Exorcist, I'm like just doing all this like weird stuff with my body, but it was just intuitive movement, and it opened this whole freaking awakening that then turned into this body awakening, that where I started feeling like my soul speaking through my body. And then my mind became super clear, and it was like I had no more like crazy thoughts that didn't feel like my own. Like, and the next thing I knew, I started like feeling like I was tapping into this like feminine frequency that was like teaching me stuff. And I started just having the most like crazy spiritual experiences and downloads, and like I would go into like trances and like just experience these like energetic waves and vibrations, and like it was insane. And that all led into like a super successful time in my business, and like and in my goddess mode program, and like just all of this stuff. And so anyway, I've been having this inkling to get back into my body, but I've been putting it off because even though 2022 is one of the best times of my life and one of the most prominent awakening seasons of my life, there's, I think, been a little bit of resistance, because I also went through a really heavy breakup at the time in 2022. And after that, kind of that season started fading, and I kind of went through this crumbling, this quantum crumble. And so I've had this like urge to start getting back into my body, and the only way I really knew how was like by what I used to do. But there's been this like these old like stories and stuff around like that basically are just excuses keeping me from it. And so this morning I finally decided, like, I'm going into my filming room and I'm shutting the door, and I'm going to play my freaking feminine music, and get into my body. And it was like the most freaking like holy shit experience. Like I loved, it was just, I don't even know how to describe it. It felt like a huge just relief happened in that, like in the like 30-45 minutes I was in here doing that. I mean, it was amazing. It felt so needed. Like I like just loosened up so many different parts of my body and stretched things out and worked through so much tension. And I was like making all these crazy noises, and I just haven't done that in like a while. And it was great. But again, it was just like I just had this nudge, and I've been kind of procrastinating on it, making up a lot of excuses, and, feeding my resistance rather than feeding my soul. And I think right now, as we move out of Leo season and into Virgo season, it's going to be like, okay, we've had maybe the identity shifts and the self-esteem shifts and the new ways of seeing ourselves. Now it's like, what do we do with that? What do we do with that in a physical way? How do we change our physical realities, tweak our physical realities to be more in alignment with who we are now? Whether that is a routine or adding some structure into your life to represent who you are now, whether that's through, getting into your body or your health or your diet or exercise or, a job shift or whatever the case may be. It's like, this is about our physical wellness. This is about our physical, spiritual hygiene and our physical hygiene in general with Virgo. This is about no longer needing to do things out of a sense of perfectionism, or out of a fear of failure, but out of a wholeness, and a sense of worthiness. Like, I value who I am. I value my energy. Am I doing things in my life that align with that? Am I making decisions or adding structure or making the changes in my physical reality that align with me valuing my time and my energy? Like, your energy is your currency, and when you treat your energy and you like it's important and you value your energy, it is like life goes so much more smoothly, and you start making decisions and making moves from a place of your values, your true values. Like, are you feeding your soul? Like, I don't know why that feels really intuitively like my intuition is like just ding 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 about feeding the soul right now. Ever since I said that, it's like my intuition is like that for some reason. So it's like you come back to being the soul, being in the driver's seat, being in your power. But now it's like, how are you feeding that? What are you going to do about that? How are you going to rearrange your life because of that? That's what Virgo season is about. It's about keeping what really is important, sorting things out, because Virgo rules the digestive system. Virgo is the sign that's ushering us from summer into fall. Virgo is, about, you've heard a lot, I'm sure, Virgo is about like the harvest, sorting out what we want to bring with us and what we want to let go of. So with Virgo energy, it's like, this is about like, okay, it's time to let go of what isn't really truly important. Break it down here. Like, what's truly important here? Are you hanging on to something just out of an old version of you or out of an old sense of security, but is it really important to you? And sometimes, like, I've been going back and listening to a lot of my old programs, classes, master classes, and I have some really powerful ones on my channel that are public and for free. If you go through my videos and stuff, I'm thinking about making like a playlist of all my free master classes as well, so they're easier to find. So let me know if you'd like to do that, or if you'd like me to do that. I also have a ton of content in my Facebook group, the Quantum She, or it may be called something else now. I'm not sure. I don't post on my Facebook profile as much anymore, but I'm probably going to start again very soon, but there's a ton of like a treasure trove of stuff in there as well. But I feel like, I've been going back through, I forgot what I was saying for a minute, where I've been going back through some of my old stuff. Gosh, the screen keeps dying. We probably don't need it up anymore anyway. You get it. You've seen it. But I've been going back through some of my old stuff and listening to some of my old stuff. And I was listening to the Journey Back to Self masterclass that I did back in 2022, right after my initial quantum crumble, and I was kind of picking up the pieces and trying to come back to myself at the time, and I was very vulnerable in that masterclass. And I was talking about, it's basically all about coming back to yourself after feeling lost or going through a time where nothing really makes sense. And I was talking about how usually at least in my life, and I've seen a lot of other people do this, that sometimes we fall into this pattern where rock bottoms almost have to happen, or are inevitable, because we are clinging so hard to our stories and our expectations and our excuses. And so when rock bottoms happen, a lot of the times it clears away all the bullshit. It's like, and it shows you what really matters. It makes it very, very clear what's really actually important to you and what wasn't, and what illusions you've been living under, what excuses you were hanging on to of what you could or couldn't do, or why you couldn't do this, or whatever the case may be. And it's like, in those moments, they're like reality checks, and like we kind of wake up and we realize like, wow, like I've been living my life and I've been so caught up in like, oh, I need this, or I can't do this because of that, or been so caught up in these stories and these excuses and these, things that aren't even important to us. Like, so often we hang on to our excuses about why we're not going after our dreams, why we're not living a life that is more in alignment with us, that fills us up every day, that feels more happy. We are more like intimate with our excuses. We hang on more to our excuses than we do our dreams. And like we sit there and fight against our dreams with our excuses. And it's like, okay, do you want to fight for your excuses, or do you want to fight for your dreams? I think that, this new moon squaring Uranus is like, it's time to shift the way that we've been going about something. Uranus is always about doing something original. Like it's about being innovative, doing something from a higher level. And with this new moon in Virgo, it's like, even though it's a square, this new moon squaring Uranus, I really think that it's like, okay, yeah, we can maybe do something that maybe we've had remnants of before. Or we can make changes in a way that maybe, yes, we have done before, but it doesn't have to lead to the same outcome, or we can do it differently this time. We can change the way that we do it. We can change the way that we think about it. Or maybe it's about it not all needing to make sense right now. That by actually embodying and creating the change in the physical reality, that is what actually brings in the new insight and the new codes. Maybe, especially depending on where this is at for you, maybe you make physical change that doesn't make logical sense to other people. And they're like, and it doesn't need to. Maybe you make physical change and it disrupts how other people think, or it disrupts what's normally done. But either way, I think it's like, this is a time where we are going into Virgo season, and it's like we're picking and choosing what's worth it and what we really value, and we're letting go of bullshit. That it's like, no, this is not progressing me towards the life that I truly want to live. This is no longer in alignment with who I am in the present moment. These excuses are not more important than my dreams. Okay, and it's like really maybe even seeing like a quote that I used to say a lot back in 2022 and even 2023 is that your dreams are not too big, your mind is too narrow. Okay, and your excuses are not more powerful than you. Your circumstances are not more powerful than you. We change our circumstances by being the change and acting from that place. But we've got to be the change first. And that's been a lot of what Leo season has been about. And then we create the change in the physical. Virgo can manifest and create things and craft things and make small tweaks to the littlest things, and then boom, it's something different. And I see this with like my Venus and Virgo a lot. I'm like, how I can be like picky sometimes with certain foods, because it's like if they don't have that sauce, it's like the sauce makes the freaking food. Okay, the sauce tops all of it off, and I love it with the sauce. And then if I don't have the sauce, it's not the same. The sauce makes it, or if I don't have this ingredient, like it's not the same. And so anyway, it's like we can make the smallest changes can make the biggest results. And I think that this is kind of like the name of the game as we move into Virgo season now. The other thing that I want to talk about that we're going to start feeling Sunday into Monday next week is that Venus is going to move into Leo. And once she does, she's going to oppose Pluto. And this is going to be interesting. Okay, so we have more kind of Leo, Pluto, and Aquarius oppositions happening here. And Venus and Pluto are very interesting because Venus is about the things that feel good, the things that we're attracted to, the things that we're magnetized to, the things that we like, the things that we feel good about, the things that are beautiful to us, the things that are pleasurable to us. And being opposite of Pluto and Aquarius is like we want to do things for ourselves. Like Venus and Leo is going to be a lot about self-love and coming into confidence with ourselves and coming into this feeling of being in love with who we are. Like it's self-love is going to be the name of the game with Venus and Leo. But opposing Pluto, it's like, can we love ourselves so deeply and so powerfully that it creates ripple effects, in other people's lives? Or do we hide our sense of confidence, our sense of security, our self-esteem, how much we love ourselves, how proud of ourselves we are, how much we honor the hell out of who we are and our hearts out of fear, of what other people or what the world's going to think about it. And this is going to become very, very obvious to us as we move into, early next week and into this week. Okay, because it's going to be like, okay, like I just want to do me. I want to love myself. I want to appreciate who I am. But do we allow the fear or the collective shadow or certain collective shadows to kind of dampen that, to kind of drain us, or to be more important or powerful than how we feel about ourselves. And that's really how I kind of see this playing out in a lot of ways. And on top of that, while this is happening, you're not going to see it on my chart, but the moon will have just entered Libra and be opposing Saturn and Neptune. It's going to create kind of this mystic rectangle with an X through it. And so it's going to be a lot about self and kind of how we feel about ourselves and how we feel in terms of our own individual talents and, you know, what we're capable of and all of that versus kind of others and how we feel about others. So the whole self-other thing, the whole individuality versus, you know, everybody else, the whole like feeling special and adored and loved, you know, versus feeling rejected or alienated or whatever, the whole feeling like, you know, I'm confident and I'm on top of the world and I can do anything, to I'm human and I have certain limitations, right? These are the kind of oppositions we're going to be coming back into and kind of playing with, which we already kind of have been on and off this month and late July. But these are some of the oppositions we're going to come back into playing with by the end of this week, early next week. So definitely pay attention to that at the time. But yeah, so that is what is happening this week. Hopefully this was helpful for you. Let me know down below if you stayed until here. Comment down below, sexy alien, because you are. I appreciate you. Let me know what you got from this video, if it was helpful, if you feel like it resonated with where you're at in your life right now. And I'll likely be doing a new moon video later this week and go over what it means for each sign. Also, if you haven't already seen your August horoscope for this month, definitely go watch that. I went back and watched it and it's already been extremely accurate. So even if you watched it once, go back and watch it again, because it can relate in whole new ways and add a lot more context and make sense of things in whole new ways now that we, you know, have completed more than half the month at this point. So anyways, I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next one.